Hello and welcome. I'm Darshan Usman. Here are stories making rounds beyond the continent. At least 5 rockets were launched from Iraq's town of Zumar towards a U.S. military base in northeastern Syria on Sunday. The attack against U.S. forces is the first since early February when Iranian-backed groups in Iraq stopped their attacks against U.S. troops. It comes a day after Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani returned from a visit to the United States where he met with President Joe Biden at the White House. A post on Telegram group affiliated with Kataib Hezbollah said armed factions in Iraq had decided to resume attacks after a near 3-month pause after seeing little progress on talks to end the U.S.-led military coalition in the country. A U.S. official speaking on the condition of anonymity said more than 5 rockets were fired from Iraq towards troops at a coalition base in Rumeline, Syria, but no U.S. personnel was injured. Israeli Army spokesperson Daniel Hagari says the Chief of Staff visited the Southern Command and approved the next moves for the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had earlier vowed to increase military pressure on Palestinian militant group Hamas in the coming days in a bid to secure the release of hostages held in Gaza. Despite an international outcry, Netanyahu has repeatedly said that the army will launch a ground assault on Rafah, a southern Gaza city so far spared an Israeli invasion where more than 1.5 million Palestinians have taken refuge. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has met Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi as the two pledged to help ease tensions and promote trade after deadly cross-border strikes earlier this year. Both leaders addressed a joint press conference where Raisi said there are a number of common positions and a stance between the two countries about combating terrorism.
להיעדרותם הנוכחת והכואבת מאוד של החטופים.
तरक्की की है और इंशाअल्लाह आज ये मौका आ गया है कि हम मिलकर पाकिस्तान और ईरान के ताल्लुकात को बहुत मुस्तहकम करें और अपने जो हमारे जो बॉर्डर्स हैं वहाँ पर तरक्की और खुशहाली के मीनार कायम करें.
ما با کشور دوست، برادر و همسایمون پاکستان فقط به عنوان 2 کشور همسایه مطرح نیستیم. روابط بین 2 کشور روابط تاریخی، روابط تمدنی، روابط عمیق اعتقادی و دینی است. مواضع 2 کشور در مبارزه با تروریسم مواضع یکسانی است. هر دو مصممیم برای مبارزه با ناامنی‌ها و تروریسم، مبارزه با جرائم سازمان یافته، مبارزه با مواد مخدر، مبارزه با انواع ناامنی‌ها که امروز هم 2 کشور رو هم منطقه رو تهدید میکنه. نگاه مشترک 2 کشوره و در یک کلمه
In America, Donald Trump engaged in a multi-layered conspiracy of fraud, lies, and cover-ups, prosecutors said as opening arguments began Monday in the first ever criminal trial of a former U.S. president. Trump falsified business records to pay $130,000 to porn star Stormy Daniels to buy her silence over a 2006 sexual encounter that could have impacted his 2016 presidential bid. Presenting his opening statement to the 12 jurors and 6 alternates, Todd Blanche, one of Trump's attorneys, said President Trump did not commit any crimes. Before the court session began, Trump also insisted he had done nothing wrong and condemned the case as election interference designed to derail his 2024 White House bid. To give us a bit more insight, I'm joined by our international correspondent Afia Hagen. Hello, Afia. Can you give us a bit of a recap into what this trial is all about?
Well, this is all about the run-up to the 2016 general election in America. And around that time, a porn star, Stormy Daniels, said that President Trump paid her $130,000 to not talk about an affair that they had had in 2006. She said that they had had sex. Donald Trump denies that. But what they're saying has happened is that Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, made this payment, which Donald Trump then fraudulently recorded his reimbursement to Cohen as legal expenses, when in fact it was payback for the hush money payment that was made. This is the alleged offense, and this is all about trying to influence the 2016 election. Now, in opening statements, his defense team have said, look, there's nothing wrong with trying to influence an election. But under campaign finance laws, this is charged as fraud, or this is counting as fraud. Now, he faces 34 counts of fraud. He's denied all those counts of fraud, and he's also denied any sexual involvement with porn star Stormy Daniels. Now, you might remember she has done the media runs. She has spoken about this in some detail, and it's not really about her. It's not about her, and it's not about whether they had an affair or not. It's really about the fact that he paid her hush money so as not to speak about it, and therefore so that it didn't hinder his chances of getting to the White House in 2016.
All right, so Afia, what are the main things about this trial that might happen today or even over the week?
Well, last week we saw the jury selection, and jury selection was very difficult. In New York, which is traditionally quite a democratic state, there was lots of people who basically said they didn't feel they could sit on the jury without being swayed one way or the other, basically without having some sort of preconception about Donald Trump. But we have got this 12 jurors and 6 alternates. So the jury's being confirmed. The selection process, like I said, was extremely tricky. One juror who was dismissed said she worried about her privacy because her details have been leaked to the media. But now we're going to hear courtroom statements. We're going to hear from the defense attorneys. We're going to have opening statements. They have happened today. We'll hear from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and we'll hear from Trump's lawyers. Then it's all about diving into the detail of witness statements and evidence. Now, this day really sets the tone for what we're going to hear over the next few weeks. And don't get me wrong, we're going to be here for a number of weeks. We shouldn't expect a judgment anytime soon. Lots and lots of press lined up outside that courtroom in Manhattan, and believe me, they will be there for the weeks to come. It's so packed actually that there's actually a spillover room for journalists to watch the action, as it were, for just outside the court. That's how much interest there is in this case.
Okay, so what about the rest of Trump's legal woes? What happens?
And this is only one of a few cases that he actually has. So he had a hearing on a bond matter today, 2 matters before different New York judges this morning. That's the questioning of a bonding company. He has that trial basically is about Donald Trump overinflating the value of his company, which is illegal in New York. So he has that trial as well. And then remember, he does have the trial about the January 6th, the insurrection that happened there. That one is ongoing as well. So this is going to be a few months of hefty legal matters for Donald Trump.
All right, well, thank you so much, Afia Hagan. And now we move away from that, where hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets of Bogota to protest the left-wing government of Gustavo Petro, whose popularity is at an all-time low. The demonstrations were not the first against Petro since he came to power 20 months ago, but they were easily the largest. Shouts of Petro out rang through the streets of cities across the country. Medical associations, opposition groups, and even former allies of Petro had urged Colombians to show up in protest both against reforms Petro is trying to implement, including to nationalize health services and against violence that continues to mar the troubled peace talks with armed guerrilla groups.
Tiene que ser un gobierno democrático, tiene que respetar a las personas como nosotros lo hemos respetado a él, tiene que dar oportunidades, tiene que entender que no es imposición lo que debe hacer, tiene que ser con democracia.
El pueblo colombiano está cansado, como Gustavo Petro está dividiendo, en vez de unir al pueblo colombiano lo divide, nos tiene la economía por el piso, la seguridad, desastroso como tiene la seguridad, ahorita la guerrilla es la que está mandando en los territorios.
Poca ejecución, unas reformas sin fundamento que van en contra de nuestra Constitución, que van a través de decretos en contra de lo que dicen nuestras leyes estatutarias y desconociendo toda una democracia. El pueblo es el que está hablando en este momento y el pueblo es el que está diciendo queremos y amamos a Colombia y queremos un mejor país.
Que las políticas gubernamentales de Gustavo Petro son absolutamente absurdas, irregulares, que carecen de todo fundamento. Es un gobierno de improvisación, un gobierno que no ha tenido planeaciones de ningún tipo, gavetes ministeriales que están despilfarrando el erario público y que una de las banderas de la campaña de Gustavo Petro era el gobierno de la austeridad y es donde más despilfarro se ha hecho.
Beyond the Continent returns after the break. Do you stay? Thank you for staying with us. Now, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has promised that deportation flights of asylum seekers to Rwanda will begin in 10 to 12 weeks as the plan enters its final stage in Parliament. Sunak made this known during a Downing Street news conference. He said the only way to stop the boats is to eliminate the incentive to come by making it clear that people who arrive in the UK illegally will not be able to stay. The news conference comes hours after Parliament approves the contentious proposal.
The first flight will leave in 10 to 12 weeks. Now, of course, that is later than we wanted, but we have always been clear that processing will take time, and if Labour peers had not spent weeks holding up the bill in the House of Lords to try to block these flights altogether, we would have begun this process weeks ago. And the success of this deterrent doesn't rest on one flight alone. It rests on the relentless, continual process of successfully and permanently removing people to Rwanda with a regular rhythm of multiple flights every month over the summer and beyond until the boats are stopped. Starting from the moment that the bill passes, we will begin the process of removing those identified for the first flight. We have prepared for this moment. To detain people while we prepare to remove them, we've increased detention spaces to 2,200. To quickly process claims, we've got 200 trained, dedicated caseworkers ready and waiting.
A former close aide to a former minister and key ally of Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has invoked his right to silence at a Senate hearing on a graft case linked to the purchase of face masks during the COVID-19 pandemic. Poldo Garcia is suspected of being a central player in a scheme that led a small, previously known firm, Soluciones de Gestión, obtain contracts worth 53 million euros to supply masks to various public authorities between March and June 2020 at the start of the pandemic.
Que la justicia resuelva y haga, bueno, pues haga lo primero que tengo que hacer, que es atender a su señoría, y lo primero que tengo que hacer es declarar ante él y hablar con él y que él tenga conocimiento absolutamente de todo, porque esto no habla de ningún caso de las mascarillas. Me acojo a no declarar, es mi derecho.
Muy bien, está en su...
Teachers in Saint-Denis took to the streets to protest the harsh conditions of pupils. They say pupils in the area aren't entitled to the same thing as the rest of France. The state is failing in its duty to provide every pupil with an education in good conditions, and these were the words of teachers from Saint-Saint-Denis at a demonstration in Paris calling for an emergency plan for their suburb. The demonstration was part of a protest movement that began on 26 February in the poorest region of mainland France.
Parce que on est le département le plus jeune, le plus pauvre de la France hexagonale, et que nos élèves n'ont pas droit à la même chose que sur l'ensemble de la France. Et nous, ce qu'on demande, c'est juste qu'ils soient traités pareil qu'ailleurs, qu'ils aient les mêmes chances dans leur parcours scolaire que les autres élèves de l'ensemble de la France.
C'est terrible pour mes élèves. Avec la réforme des spécialités de l'ancien ministre Blanquer, comment font des élèves de seconde pour prendre une spécialité scientifique quand ils n'ont pas eu cours pendant 6 mois dans cette discipline-là en seconde? C'est impossible. On est en train tout simplement de sacrifier une partie du territoire français.
Moi je dirais le plus difficile c'est les effectifs par classe. Moi j'ai des classes de terminale, ils sont de 35 élèves. 35 élèves, ça ne permet pas de les faire travailler dans de bonnes conditions. Et l'autre difficulté aussi, c'est le manque de remplacement des enseignants lorsqu'ils sont absents. Donc il peut y avoir des classes qui, pendant des mois, n'ont pas d'enseignants dans certaines matières et ça met vraiment en difficulté la réussite des élèves. En fait, c'est l'État qui manque à son devoir d'offrir à chaque élève un enseignement dans des bonnes conditions, quoi.
L'école publique, parce que la réalité de la Seine-Saint-Denis, c'est quoi? Ce sont des établissements dont les plafonds s'effondrent, où il y a des infiltrations, des écoles qui sont infestées de nuisibles. C'est aussi 60% des établissements au début de l'année qui affichent au moins un enseignant, une enseignante qui n'est pas remplacée. Ça veut dire aussi des établissements où il n'y a pas d'assistante sociale pour permettre aux familles de remplir les dossiers de bourse nationale. Ce sont aussi des établissements où il n'y a pas d'infirmière scolaire pour faire la visite médicale, pas de médecine scolaire non plus. Donc ça signifie qu'on est dans un état véritablement de dénuement en termes d'écoles publiques dans le département de la Seine-Saint-Denis. On ne brosse pas.
Hundreds of people have protested outside the presidential palace in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, as the country's constitutional court rejected challenges made to the electoral victory of Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto by his main political rivals. Former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan and former Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo alleged that rules were breached when the son of outgoing President Joko Widodo was allowed to run to be vice president.
Mengadili dalam eksepsi, menolak eksepsi termohon dan eksepsi pihak terkait untuk seluruhnya. Dalam pokok permohonan, menolak permohonan pemohon untuk seluruhnya.
Hari ini adalah hari yang sangat mengecewakan bagi rakyat semua, rakyat Indonesia, terutama pendukung 01 dan 03, karena hari ini adalah hari yang sangat berduka ya menurut saya. Innalillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. Ya karena hakim-hakimnya tidak berpihak kepada warga Indonesia. Harusnya harapannya sama seperti harapan 01 dan 03 ialah mendiskualifikasikan pasangan 02, terutama Gibran yang tidak cukup umur sudah bisa dicalonkan. Apa itu? Semua itu adalah karena kekuasaan dari Jokowi.
Kami nanti akan sampaikan respon kita atas putusan yang tadi dibacakan sore ini. Jadi biar penjelasan lebih jauh sekarang dari Pak Ari Yusuf, Ketua Tim Hukum. Sementara kami harus jalan duluan, ya.
Now to a bit of sports before we wrap it up. The Rangers concluded a tumultuous week on a positive note as Serial Desir netted twice in a 2-0 triumph over Hearts, setting the stage for a Scottish Cup final clash against Celtic. Manager Philippe Clement had urged a response from his Rangers squad in the semi-final following a stretch of 3 winless matches, which had seen them fall 3 points behind old firm rivals in the title race. This year provided the perfect start for the Ibrox outfit at Hampden by slotting home a low shot past Craig Gordon within 5 minutes of kickoff. Despite Hart's attempt, including missed opportunities, the Sears ensured Rangers' place in the first Old Firm Scottish Cup final in over 2 decades with a late second goal. Atalanta clinched a 2-1 win over Monza, claiming 3 crucial points in the Kasper Ruud secured his first title of 2024 by defeating Stefanos Tsitsipas in straight sets at the Barcelona Open. The Norwegian third seed triumphed over the Greek fifth seed with a score of 7-5, 6-3, clinching the most significant title of his career to date. The win marks the first time the 25-year-old, currently ranked 6th in the world, has emerged victorious in an ATP 500 ranked event. Ruud faced an early setback being broken by Tsitsipas, but he quickly recovered by breaking back in the 6th game of the first set. He then capitalized on his momentum, converting one of 2 set points at 6-5. In the second set, Ruud surged ahead with a 4-1 lead after Tsitsipas conceded a break with a forehand error. That's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do you follow us on social media? We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.